So basically, today is another day where I get to act as the hostess to interview Sam and to talk about these great topics specifically to boards of directors. Today, the focus is on boards of directors, and Sam is our fundraising expert and will help to think through what we want to know, what we as executive directors want to know, and what board members want to know. And she'll explain it much better than I will when we get to that point in the schedule today. But I'm really excited to welcome everyone here. And I also want to do a special welcome to the new executive director of the Capacity Building Institute. This is a really exciting new appointment just since January 4th. And we actually have Rob Barnes here today to do the intro as the host organization for the Capacity Building Institute. So Rob, over to you and welcome.
Thanks very much, Kristina, and hello, everyone. Good evening. I hope your day is going well despite the weather in whatever part of the country you're in. So I'm going to share my screen now just to do a little bit of a walkthrough on Capacity Building Institute. As Kristina mentioned, I'm the new executive director. I'm 3 weeks in, so hopefully this is a good one. We'll get it started. Capacity Building Institute is very pleased to present this series. This is basically a capacity series where we're really looking at some of the big questions that trouble, haunt, plague maybe our sector, but also that are opportunities for growth. So how to be an executive director, how to be a board member. So really pleased to bring this to you today. In terms of what we do at Capacity Building Institute, we train leaders of small shop environmental nonprofit organizations. And what we really want to do is train people in all sorts of positions, from board members to directors to managers to volunteers, every side of the issue, so that we can sustain our work as a sector, grow and fulfill the important work that all of us are doing, and then spread that knowledge and best practices throughout the sector. And so the vision is really to have 10,000 leaders of small shop nonprofits trained by the end of this decade. It sounds ambitious, but we know we're on track, and really kind of the more the merrier. I think we're really going to see many faces as we expand our offerings over the years. Right now, what we're looking at is a few core offerings, right? We have the Capacity Building Certificate Program, which is really our flagship program. Looks at 6 core areas that you see on the left, a variety of different elements of nonprofit management. We have an internship training program too, where we really train the next generation of environmental leaders. These are interns coming into the sector, starting up, usually in their first sustainability or environment-focused job. In 2021, we held the Fundraising Intensive course, which Sam did an admirable job kind of leading that charge along with Kristina. Really all about fundraising, which is the thing that keeps us up at night, as I'm sure you're aware. And then Capacity Series, which is this. And, as I mentioned, there will be future offerings like an impact investment course coming soon. So stay tuned, follow us on social media, and get all the latest news. When it comes to something like this, our worth is really measured in terms of the testimonials and the impact on other people's organizations. And here, Mara Shaw from the National Farmers Union has some kind words to say about the Capacity Building Certificate Program, again, our flagship program. And it really is a kind of all-in-one package in terms of helping nonprofit leadership do what they need to do. The internship training program I mentioned too is a really important and fast-growing offering from Capacity Building Institute. And here's a quote from Ashna, who is with Biosphere EcoCities Canada. And really, you can see from the quote, I won't read it out for folks, but it's clear that there are so many different areas that we're required to really master, and our programs help people dive into them or develop expertise, as the case may be. So these are the questions we're wrestling with, right? How do we work efficiently with constraints like limited labor and time? How do we help people transition into leadership roles within the sector? And how can we improve our organization's capacity and the capacity of the sector as a whole, strengthen our governance structures? These are the big important questions. And so pleased that you're taking time out of your evening tonight to talk with us about this, because being a board member is really key to that. So this is the capacity series. Stay tuned. If you're interested in this session, check out the future sessions. They're free, they're online, they happen once a month. And right now we have 2 offerings, how to be an ED and how to be a board member. Stay tuned. There might be other additions in the coming months. And just a quick overview of the folks who are working with us at Capacity Building Institute to really bring the cutting edge of best practice. So Sam is on the call, over 28 years of experience in the sector, especially, a real expert on fund development, board relations, engagement, implementation strategies. So stay tuned. I know it's going to be a great conversation. Kristina is founder of Capacity Building Institute, really is really strong in so many areas, from networking to partnership development, to fundraising, NGO management, governance, and that'll come out in tonight's conversation. I'm the new kid on the block, over a decade working on climate and environment issues. And I've seen it from every angle, right? Intern, volunteer, board member, executive director, you name it. I've played the role. I continue to play the role as a volunteer, as a board member. So, I hope that I can bring that to our discussions for future webinars. And then we've also got excellent people like Barb, who's with Watersheds Canada, over 20 years of extensive management experience in the sector. We've got Alex Keenan, who worked as a legal counsel for First Nations in Ontario and Quebec, and now runs a communications firm, really all the elements around strategic communications and training. So really a powerhouse team. And we want to hear from you too. So what do you want to see during series like this with training offerings? Please get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. We've got 2 email addresses there to contact us at, and you can visit our website at capacitybuilding.ca. Before we wrap up, just want to give a deep, sincere thanks to our board members and our various partner organizations. Capacity Building Institute is one of a series of social enterprises, nonprofit organizations working together to strengthen the sector. And we've got a list there, so check out our partner organizations as well. With that, I just want to say thank you, and I really look forward to the discussion. All the best.
Thanks so much, Rob. Really appreciate that. And we're going to just jump into our main topic tonight. As you can tell, I'm not the usual host of the session. Sam is our usual host and pulls everything together. She'll be back on putting Rob in the hot seat actually next month for our February session. But for tonight, we really want to talk about fundraising, because that's the #1 topic that we're asked about. And in December, we did talk about fundraising from the executive director's point of view. But today we want to really talk about it from the board members' point of view. And I know a lot of you who are on the call today are board members, or you work with your board members. And so we really want to encourage you to be engaged in this topic. So Sam, over to you.
Thank you so much. We certainly have lots to go to tonight and walk through, so we're gonna get right at it. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. Just a little bit about me, as Rob said, been in this a long time, and happy to be here. Let's ask ourselves a question about the organization that we're with. You know, are you changing lives? Are you saving lives? And let's just kind of think about that through this lens as we walk through this presentation today. Because really, if you're going to be a board member, make sure you're passionate about it. Make sure this is something you really, really want to represent in the community. If it doesn't sort of get you jumping out of bed in the morning, you want to make sure that the commitment that you've made to the board gets you energized, and it's something you're really passionate about. And the lens I like to use is, are you changing lives? Are you saving lives? And can you answer this question? If someone was to ask you about your involvement in the community. And, a really important piece, of course, fund development from a board member's perspective is understanding the different revenue streams. And you can see here, typically we sort of look at a donor pyramid, and we got that geographical area in the bottom. So if you're representing, we see some people here from Manitoba and of course Ontario, all across the country. This is an opportunity for you to sort of think about what geographical area are you representing. And then of course events. Now, heavens to Betsy, we can talk about events all day long, especially when it's come to the pandemic. We know that people have had to pivot. I hate that word so much, but had to pivot so much during this pandemic. So events have really become a very different way to raise money, a lot of virtual events, but it really is kind of the ground that people come into many times when they're engaging with a nonprofit. And then we think about that direct mail, that annual appeal. It could be an online donation. And then, of course, monthly donors. We know that monthly donors, for every monthly donor, typically women give for 7 years, men give for 9 years. That's 2 or 3 credit card turnovers. So these are typically very, very loyal donors. And do you have a monthly giving program? And this would be something that would be great for you as a board member to be a monthly donor, really get an idea of what it feels like to be a monthly donor to the organization that you're representing. And of course, major gift, and that really differs for everybody. And how I like to define a major gift is how a donor defines a major gift. You could have a donor give you $500 and that's a real sacrificial gift for them, or you could have somebody give you $50,000 and they don't really notice that out of their bank account, right? People are leading different lives. In terms of a major gift, I do really suggest that you define what that is in your organization. So if $1,000 is a big gift for your organization, or $5,000 or $10,000, define that and as a way of sort of segmenting your donors as well. And then of course, grants. If anyone's ever written a grant, God bless you. There certainly can be challenging to write grants. Is a big piece of the work many people are doing right now. And of course, some of you may be undertaking a capital campaign. You might be building a new building, or you might be purchasing a piece of equipment. That's something to think about, and it's a whole different kind of fundraising. It's very, very different. And then of course, planned giving. And some people call this legacy giving. And of course, this is when people leave you in their will. It really is the most rewarding gift you can receive, knowing that somebody, as they're sort of planning their legacy, their values in life are being put on pieces of paper and shared for when they pass away. They're sharing with their family and their friends that your organization meant that much to them. So planned giving is also an incredible way to donate. Really surprising to so many people that individuals are really who gives the most here in Canada. About 87% comes from individuals, foundations, about 7%, the rest between corporations and other ways of giving. No two ways about it. Being a board member and fundraising and charitable organizations, it really is all about the relationship. And so many relationships are built through really a fundraising philosophy. And this can apply to direct mail. It can apply to major gifts or monthly giving. It doesn't really matter. It's the right person asking the right prospect at the right time for the right project, for the right amount, with the right amount of stewardship. And people are always very surprised as well to hear that about 80% of the funds come from 20% of the donors. So this is always a bit of a shock for people too. And in terms of support, it really does start with board members, and people are always a bit surprised if they haven't been brought into an organization right from the very beginning, and advise that there is a part of this organization is being a board member, is giving a gift. That can be a meaningful gift of whatever amount for you as a board member. It could be $10 a month as a monthly donor, or it could be $1,000 a month. Just to give you an idea, for really big organizations such as hospitals, many times it's a minimum of $25,000 to sit on their board. So different boards operate different ways. Not everybody is comfortable asking board members for gifts, but certainly it does help. If you're a board member and you're donating, and I go back to grants for a second, many of the grants that we're applying for right now have a particular question, what percentage of your board gives. And if we can only respond 75% and it's not 100%, sometimes that goes in a no pile. So just to keep that in mind. So the board is obviously a really big piece of this. Staff and families tend to get involved as well, volunteers, suppliers, and then the community. So it really is important. A lot of people will say to me, Sam, I want to raise lots of money from the community. And I think there's a feeling out there that there's this big giant group of people just waiting to write checks. That's just not true. I wish it was. So the big part that we're always thinking about is nonprofits. And really, as board members, you need to think about as well is two groups of people. The donors that we're cultivating and those new donors. We always have to keep an eye on both groups. We don't want to spend so much time focused on acquiring donors that we forget about those loyal donors, and then they drop off and our retention rate drops. But we also don't want to spend so much time cultivating those donors that we're not continuing to fill the funnel. So this is always a bit of a balancing act for every fundraiser out there, myself included. Okay, who's thinking about beautiful cake? I love this picture of big, beautiful cake. And why we're sharing this today is because it really is the best way to share with you about how you can think about your role as a board member. Your role as a board member, particularly in terms of the strategic plan. That strategic plan helps guide all these other layers. And just like this cake, we wouldn't eat this cake one layer at a time. We would take a nice, big, beautiful slice out of this cake and get a little bit of all of this. So as a board member, you really need to think about this strategic plan because it's going to influence your case for support, and it should. It should influence your fundraising plan, which also influences your stewardship plan and your communications plan. So the work you do here at the strategic level is really key. And you should also ensure when you're working with your team to sort of understand what else is in these in terms of your role. Now, we want to make sure from a board member's perspective, we don't get into the minutia of things, but having these documents is really essential. And of course, you've heard this before, culture eats strategy for breakfast. As a board member, you really do set the stage in many ways for how that organization is going to run. And you can sit around and sort of talk strategy all day, but unless you sort of walk the walk and get down to what's really important, none of it will matter in the end if you don't have the right philanthropic culture. So let's talk a few basics, if you will. Board members' role, of course, as we've alluded to, really talks about time, talent, and treasure. We've already kind of gone ahead and talked about that treasure piece, but you're giving of your time. And what this means is you will understand when you're a board member, our fundraising colleagues should outline, we have 4 meetings a year, we have 6 meetings a year, we have a monthly meeting. What's the time commitment? And you'll want to make sure that you can attend a lot of that. A lot of times we have bylaws that, if you don't attend, upwards of 50% of the meetings that you're asked to leave the board. There's lots of different bylaws. Lots of people have different bylaws that they use for this type of thing, but it's a really important piece. You want to bring your time, but you also want to bring your talent. So a lot of times board members, will jump on a board. They're happy to be there. They want to do some of the networking, but they don't really contribute. And I really beg of you, if you're going to become a board member, to really get engaged, use your talent, and then obviously support any of those treasure initiatives that they have as well. So really these are, kind of broken down into 3 core board member duties, and this is from Boardable. This is duty of care. So this is basically doing those roles to the best of your ability, proactively participating, like I mentioned, and communicating. There's nothing worse from a fundraiser's perspective to have worked weeks on a board package and arrive at a board meeting and board members go, "Oh, I didn't get a chance to look at that." And then they're asking questions that are answered in that package. So really take your time to participate that way. Duty of loyalty. All activities should be done in the best interest of the organization and not on individual board members. You may be joining a board to advance your career, but you can do that, but also participate, right? You have to always remember this is about the organization and the people or causes that you're behind. And also following all of the governance documents, and it's okay to ask about those governance documents and those policies. So duty of care, duty of loyalty, and duty of obedience. And then of course we've got board member responsibilities. So it's really to advance the mission of the organization, those fiduciary and legal responsibilities. Come prepared, as I mentioned. Hire and oversee the executive director, such an important role, really, really important. Recruit exceptional new members, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Adopt sufficient communication tools. So sometimes we'll use a portal on our website for board members. Sometimes we'll use Google Docs so everyone can access the same documents. And then, of course, serving on committees. A lot of times you might be asked to serve on the finance committee, the fundraising committee, program committee. You may be asked to do that as well. I created a little acronym, if you will, to remember what's important for board members. I call it Take a Stance. So steward those donors, get involved from a fundraising perspective, train in fundraising, which is something you're doing tonight. That ambassador role, such an important role. And sometimes people are a little bit shy and don't know what they're up for there, but certainly ask. We're certainly happy to help you. Networking in the community is also really important. You know, if there's a check presentation or an event to go to, even a virtual event, to definitely get connected there. And connection to the cause. Like I said right off the top, be passionate. You know, take this on. If this is something that really inspires you, then you want to be connected to the cause. And of course, engaging with not only your board members, but the staff. And it doesn't mean all levels of staff. Typically, you might be engaging with the fundraiser and maybe the finance director and maybe your executive director, or maybe that's all one person in small organizations, but be engaged with them. And it's really important as well when you're building trust with the community. You want to make sure that you're giving those benefits that you promised and delivering on those to the beneficiary group. You want to use those funds properly. You want to have those quality donor relations. We're going to give you a tip a little bit later on how you can get involved there. And of course, that ethical behavior is really important. So I want to share with you what every fundraiser wants every board member to know. I'm going to give you a few, is that first off, we need you. We need you to be part of this organization. Not only does CRA tell us that we need you, but we really do need you. This is a really important piece. We want you to know we're exhausted. This pandemic has exhausted us. We are doing our best, but there are days where we're just a little bit scared. So we want to, be open and honest about that. Sometimes we want to, give that stiff upper lip, but it has been a challenging time, and many, many, many fundraisers are burnt out. They need the right team. You can't expect people to not have the resources, and human or otherwise, around them in order to make things happen. So they need the right team and they need the right tools. And why I'm showing an old car here is because, if you're still working off DOS, it's not going to work. So you want to make sure you have the right tools, the right database, and all of those things in order to do your job well. They want you to trust them. Fundraisers really want you to have trust in them that they're going to do the best job. Typically, just like you becoming a board member, typically fundraisers are also just as passionate. Executive directors are just as passionate. I'm sure you've heard this before, but people that get into nonprofit typically aren't doing it, and we're not driving around, BMWs and Maseratis. So it's not meant to be sort of a financial thing for us. We really want to be in this because we really, really believe in it. We want you to, and we need you to open doors. One of your roles, as well as that ambassador role, is to really engage new audiences. If you're really passionate about, the Ottawa Valley Bird Center, then you want others to also be as passionate about that with you. So we want you to open doors and help bring people into our organization and really have other people experience this. They also need professional development. Here we find ourselves this evening. A lot of times people feel, I'm going to hire a fundraiser or an executive director. I'm going to put them in a 10 by 10 office and hope the money comes out under the door. It's just not true. It doesn't happen. We need continual development. I've been in this sector for over 30 years. I can't even tell you how much has changed in 30 years. It has literally been a 180. It's incredible. And it's great. Online has obviously offered lots of opportunities. The real focus on equity and inclusivity has really opened up a lot of conversations. So fundraising has changed. We need to keep up to date with that. There's lots of organizations that do that, and CBI is doing it beautifully. We need you to see the big picture. We need you to see 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. That's why we do these strategic plans, typically 3 to 5 years for a strategic plan. but we really want you to see the big picture. We really value your time. And when we, have a board meeting or, schedule you something, we really do try to keep it to that time. And this is one that many will not speak about publicly, but I'm going to put my hand up. We have a love-hate relationships with special events. Some of us love them, some of them hate them, and that can happen at the exact same moment. Fundraising professionals that have done any sort of event, especially during this pandemic, will tell you that it does keep them up at night. They need you to do the work. They need you, if you're going to commit, you say, I'm, at a board meeting, or I'm going to call so-and-so, please call so-and-so. Please commit to those types of things. It's really, really important. And I've said it a couple of times, we need you to give. We need you to be part of the group. And there's no more beautiful way to sort of share, your commitment is through time, talent, and treasure. And by donating to an organization that you feel passionate about, you're in some ways stewarding your own money, right? You've given money to an organization that you feel very passionate about, and you would want others giving money to be just as passionate about that as well. So there's really, really important there. And of course, they want you to tell your story. Why are you passionate? Why this organization? What is it about Tucker House that really gets you excited? What is it about an organization that really drives you? And they want you to celebrate. When we get a grant, oh my heavens, let's celebrate. Usually people are getting about 30% of the grants that they apply for. So shoot off an email and say, congratulations. Really celebrate those times, because we work really, really hard. So we want you to celebrate. And of course, we need to take risks, and they need to take risks. We're all in this together, but we need to try different things. And this goes back to the professional development as well. And of course, every board member wants every fundraiser to know the following. That they want to help. Every board member, I'm sure as a board member right now, you're going, I want to help, I want to get involved. And they also worry about the finances. I think all of us do, but board members definitely worry about the finances. It comes down to that fiduciary responsibility. You want those dollars to be stewarded well. And of course, they value you as fundraisers. Board members definitely value you. They want to be informed, right? They don't want to be the last person to know. I always create, whenever I work for an organization, I always create a communications tree, that if something was to go wrong in the organization, who's calling who with what information. You don't want a board member to learn about a fire at your organization by reading social media, right? So you want to make sure that you're connected that way. They don't know what to do. This is the truth. Sometimes they just don't know. They want to learn, they want to get involved, but sometimes they don't know what to do and they don't know how to handle situations. And this is one of the reasons that you're there. So we sometimes have to admit that, and it's sometimes hard to do. They want training. They want to be trained. They want to have that opportunity. They want a plan. So, they really want this opportunity to see what the big plan is. And board members in many, many ways are also nervous, right? They've maybe never been part of a board before, or maybe they didn't have a great experience. So they want to make sure that they are following all of the rules. And sometimes that can come across as someone not participating. They may just feel a little bit nervous. They want to ask questions, and we want you to ask questions. Please ask questions. And when I say that, I want to make sure that you also know that we also want you to do the research, right? So if we're going to be talking about a certain topic, we want you to come with those questions, but if they're also answered in that document that we sent out to give you a preamble, we're hoping that you read that, right? So we want you to ask questions. We want to make sure you're informed. They want measurement. So board members want to measure results. So do we as fundraisers. This is a lot of the work that I do when it comes to analytics. I work on analytics for hundreds of organizations across the country and globally. So they want to see what the results are. What's our average gift? What's all of that? So it's a really important piece as well. And they like policies. Board members like policies. A good example of that is we head back to October of 2018 when cannabis became legal in this country. I can guarantee probably 95% of people or organizations in this country didn't have a gift acceptance policy for a cannabis company, right? So you're looking for those policies and procedures. They want to know that you have them. And they don't like surprises. They do not like surprises. I don't know how many people do, except when it's your birthday. So they don't want to be surprised by anything at the board table. And this is an important piece for sure to keep in mind. They want to be inspired by impact. And I love doing this is every single board meeting, share a story, share a donor letter, share impact, show how you've got something done, leave them with something that they can then tell someone else. And I always think, I'm really old, so I always think about that commercial, I told two and she told two, you know, that hair commercial. So, you know, this is what you want them to do. You want them to leave the board meeting and tell somebody else about the impact of your organization. They want a strong and solid onboard. When you bring them on as a board member, definitely do an onboard. Do not make assumptions that they know what's happening at that board table. What I love to do, and I just did it a couple of weeks ago with one of my, two of my new board members, is we actually sat down and we went through the website. Sounds kind of funny, but we walked through the website. It was a great place to sort of start. They asked lots of questions and actually came up with something that we should add to the website. But it was just a great place to start. So do that solid onboarding. You will benefit from it. Trust me, take the time and do that. They don't like jargon, you know, don't sit there and say, oh, I took the CFRE to the ABC to the, you know, they don't know what those terms are. So drop the jargon. Board members don't like it. It makes them feel like they're not informed, really, or give them some sort of little legend that they can follow along with as part of their board package for the first time. They want to understand social media. They want to be informed and be part of that. And they also want to think about succession, yours and theirs. So they do think about the board member, or the executive director. Is this executive director going to be here for 2 years, 5 years? Is this fundraiser, you know, on her way out? They want to think about that. And they should always be thinking about how to fill their own seat. If they've got, you know, 2-3 year terms is the maximum, they should be thinking about who to fill their seat. And not to fill their seat with someone like them. Try to find someone that's not like them that can bring new ideas to the table. So succession planning is absolutely key. And you should also know, and this is a little bit of a executive summary of giving, these are some of the metrics you would want to know from a fundraising perspective. Is, you know, what's your average gift? How many people in the database? What percentage of people are giving? These are really important sort of metrics to know. So when you're thinking about being a board member, you know, these are some of the questions that you can ask. And you're always thinking about stewardship. And stewardship is something that as board members, you can absolutely get along with. And I'm going to share an example in a second. Metrics are key, how to ask, you want to know about retention, and you want to know who you're targeting. So let's think about thanking donors for a second. And this is a really important piece. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tip. Never, ever Google stool on the internet, ever. This is a 4-legged stool, and I'm going to use this as an example of the 4 things you can do when you're thanking donors. And if you're asked to thank donors by your executive director or your fundraiser, they're going to give you a list of 5 donors to thank. Excellent. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to thank them. You're going to show some accountability of how the money was used. You're going to show some vision of where you would take future monies. And of course, listening to the donor. So all of this is a really important piece. You're going to capture some notes from the call and send it back to be put into the database. And there's no harm in asking for a script or to do some role playing, but a really important piece for so many of us. When we think about fundraising, we think about a clear case for support, strong data, segmenting those donors, that emotional storytelling piece really becomes that donor-centric fundraising. And you're a big, big part of this. A few resources that I'll share with you before Kristina and I start our chat, which I always look forward to. Imagine Canada has some great resources, the Canadian Association of Gift Planners as well, the Association of Fundraising Professionals. There's a 30 years of giving report from Rito Hall. And although it was done a few years ago, it still has some really great information in it. It's a little bit thick, but you know, on a snowy day like today, it would be a great thing to read. Canada Helps has some great resources as well. And there's a great book by Penelope Burke called Donor-Centered Leadership, a great fundraising book that I can recommend. Kristina, I can't believe I did it. I stuck to 6:35, my friend. I hope
Wow,
that
I'm impressed.
there you go.
Thank you so much, Sam.
My pleasure.
That was awesome. We're going to jump into a bit of a Q&A, and I'm going to specifically start with a few questions just based on Sam's presentation. And please don't forget for everyone else to share your questions in the Q&A tab, and I will look at that. But Sam, I want to talk about something I've heard you say at other presentations, and it's this incredible question that goes along with the stool. And I want to just hear from you and share with others how this might help a board member. So the question that you've always told me would be a great question to ask is, what inspired your first gift? And so can you share a little bit about that question, and how could a board member ask that to someone else, and how will it help them to, you know, get into a great conversation with a donor?
I just need to pause because I can't believe you brought that up. It just makes my heart happy. So what inspires your very first gift? So what you're looking for from a board member's perspective here is you're really looking to engage in a conversation. And this is a great way to sort of get to know a donor. And you're going to hear lots of different, I've asked this question literally thousands of times. You're going to hear everything from, oh, I don't know, my wife asked me to do it. Or you're going to hear, oh, I don't know, I went to an event. But you're also going to get these beautiful nuggets of, you know, really that emotional side of why a donor is giving. So they're not always going to be fireworks answers, but what you're hoping to get is you're asking sort of that open-ended question and hoping to see that emotional connection between the donor and the organization. And it also is, it's an easy question to ask, as opposed to saying something kind of, like, oh, why did you first give, or something like that. What inspired the gift? The word inspired is really key in that question.
Thanks, Sam. And I want to talk a little bit about that phone call, that thanking conversation. And I'll just maybe add that it doesn't necessarily have to be a phone call. Another way that board members might help with thanking is by writing out thank you cards. And that's another sort of simple and straightforward thing that a board member can do that would really help the executive director or the fundraiser when it comes to thanking. But what if you have never really done this kind of thanking call before, and how do you get comfortable with it? And then also, can you share a little bit about why it's the most awesome thing in the world to do is to thank people, and how fun it is?
It is really fun, I will say. And a lot of people are very nervous to do it. And I have to tell you that I have had conversations with CEOs of $1 million organizations that sort of, phone me privately and go, I've never done this before. And you think, it doesn't really matter where you're coming from. Everyone is a little bit awkward to pick up the phone. I think our culture's changed a little bit as well. We're not on the phone as much as we used to be. So, a really big part of this is really making a connection for you. It's kind of a little bit of fuel to also have you connected to the organization still, and you will be so inspired to hear why donors really become so loyal to your organization, especially if you're phoning donors. Like, one of the best phone calls to make is to tell someone they've been giving for 5 or 10 years. Like, to phone a donor up and say, did you know your very first gift to this organization was in 2012? And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. You're like, and you've been there for us consecutively for 10 years. We simply could not do this without you. And, sometimes they're like, oh, okay, well, thanks. But it's it's a wonderful way to do this. I'll tell you another big reason, the science side of Sam is telling you from a retention perspective, it helps retain donors. You think about Starbucks. Starbucks, it costs them $75 to acquire every donor that goes through there. Every time you go into Starbucks, or even at the window, they try to create an experience. They're writing your name on the cup. They've got these, fancy different ways of doing drinks and stuff. And if your drink isn't right, they're going to make you a new drink. So they're creating an experience. You are also creating an experience for somebody. And in that book I was referencing earlier, Penelope Burke's, she said that basically only about 10% of organizations are phoning and thanking donors. So 1, you're going to stand out. 2, your retention is going to be there. And 3, it's really good for you as a board member. Your heart will be full.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's really important for you know, I work with a lot of boards who, the minute they know that I'm coming in to talk about fundraising, they sort of get their backs up, like, oh no, what's it going to be about? And is this about, you know, us giving, or is it about, you know, us bringing our contacts in and everything like that? So I just want to know, what are some, you know, low-hanging fruit kind of ways to, we talk about a culture of philanthropy and the fact that there's, without using too much jargon here, a bit of a spectrum of engagement in terms of like a board starting at, we've done nothing to be involved in fundraising ever, and we're just dipping our toe into the water, versus you're really super engaged and you're bringing your contacts to the table, you know, filling a table at a special event. Let's say you're on the other side of the spectrum where you're just starting. And I know we've talked about thanking donors as one, you know, easy way to get involved. Are there any other sort of simple and straightforward things that an individual person can do that will really make a difference?
Follow us on social media. Share our posts. It is the simplest thing you will do. Just jump on there, share our posts, engage with us, ask, you know, 5 of your friends to join that particular Facebook group or your Instagram or whatever it is. That's one of the simplest things you could do. Offer to write a couple of thank you notes, right? There's no harm in sort of sitting down, writing a couple of thank you notes. That's a great way to do it as well. And, you know, for any organization that's just starting out, I'm going to try and explain this in about a minute. So there's an exercise, and I think Kristina, you and I have talked about this, called the menu exercise. So I run these exercises for boards all over the country, all over North America. Actually, I've done 4 or 5 in the States recently. So basically this exercise, the menu exercise, I did not develop this. It was developed by someone else, but it's brilliant. So you think about a menu, you think about an appetizer, a main, and a dessert. So you're going to sit down and with your board, make a list of all the ways that they can help. And then you're going to categorize them. Oh, this is a little something, so it's an appetizer. Oh, this is a sweet something, maybe it's a thank you calls. Or, oh, this is a big one. You know, this is leaving a legacy gift, right? So you're going to make a big list of, let's say, 20 ways you can help. You're going to, as a board, decide if this is an A, an M, or a D, an appetizer, a main, or a dessert. And then what you're going to ask everyone to do is pick their own menu. Let's pretend you've got 12 board members. They're all going to pick something. And it doesn't matter if somebody picks the same thing, but you really try to have everything off the board chosen at the end of the exercise. And then what you do is everybody's chosen. So let's say I'm a board member. I'm going to choose, my appetizer is going to be that I'm going to invite 5 people to join our social media platforms. I'm going to, my main is I'm going to engage with 5 corporations that I know and bring them to the table. And my dessert is I'm going to make 5 thank you calls a month. Okay. So now there's 12 of me. We've all chosen different things. And every single month we take 15 minutes at the meeting to report on how we worked on our menus. Keeps everybody accountable. At the end of the year, you've got 36 different activities that we're being engaged in during that time, and it keeps everybody accountable. If you want to change your meal halfway through, oh, I don't feel like doing that anymore, I want to do this, great. It's a great way for fundraisers to be able to keep board members in line in terms of the stewardship activities, but it also becomes very, very clear. Everybody chose their own things and everybody's accountable.
I'm a huge fan, Sam, of this menu exercise. I know you've trained on it many times before, and I would really encourage your boards, if you haven't had that opportunity to sit down and think through these straightforward tasks, some that are bigger, some that are smaller, and then allow and encourage yourself to pick your own thing and to be accountable to it. I think that is going to, if nothing else, that one thing is going to transform the sector in terms of really having an engaged and active set of board members who are really interested in fundraising. You know, sometimes board members think that, you know, they need to get involved in grant writing. And you know what I think is interesting is, sometimes that's true. Some organizations do need help with grant writing, but most of the time it's actually not the most important thing that, you know, a fundraiser or an executive director needs help with. It's helping with that donor base, helping with inviting monthly donors, or having the board members be monthly donors. So I think it's often easy to think fundraising and grants and think that's where our mind goes first. But I would actually argue in most of the organizations that I've worked with, it's not the grant writing that the ED or the staff members need help with, it's the individual donor and growing that donor list. Would you agree, Sam?
100%. 100%. In many ways, like a lot of organizations have that grant toolkit. We've got what we need there, right? We've got the program information. We have the, the bylaws and the constitution and everything we need to write those grants, but we need you to support basically every other element that we're working on. So absolutely 100% agree.
I see that Sandra asked if there's a link for the menu activity, and I think maybe what we can do this season for the capacity building certificate program is create a little one-page handout that describes it and share it with the different boards, so we can maybe follow up on that. And Sandra, I'll send you a copy for sure. I think we'll just take a quick pause and go to our sponsor of the night and hear from Chantel from Green Books. And if there are any other lingering questions that come up when we finish that presentation, we'll come back to Sam. So Chantel, are you there? And can we hear from you about Green Books? So thank you so much to our sponsor for today.
Yes, hello everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. Just wanted to thank you for inviting me here, and I hope you're learning as much as I am. I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen. There we go. Ooh, did that work? There we go. Perfect. Okay. So my name is Chantal. I work with Green Books. We are a full service bookkeeping social enterprise. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of information. So I'll try to go through this as quickly as I can. So I'm just going to go over who we are, our services, our partners, and how to get in contact with us. So who we are, we were founded back in 2015 as a pilot program through SEO. We began with just 2 clients, and in 2015 we received a grant from OCF where we were able to expand from 2 to 7 clients. In 2016 we got another grant. Our program went so well, it was a complete success, that we went from 7 to 12. And since then, we have been slowly expanding, reaching more people, more organizations. In 2021, we were able to federally incorporate. That happened in April. And now we are working nationally, helping organizations throughout Ontario, but also all over the country. And today we have over 30 clients and counting, which is super exciting. So essentially, we were founded with the understanding that nonprofits need help with finances. It's a difficult thing. And we wanted to help because we too are a small shop. We understand the hardships that nonprofits go through. And we also understand how easy it is for books to become a mess and how detrimental it is when they do. And let's face it, no one starts an environmental nonprofit because they want to learn how to manage the books and how to go over the finances. So we are here to support these nonprofits, help build their financial capacity so that they can focus back on their mission and do the amazing work that they were founded to do. And lastly, we are doing this for the same reason that they're doing it. We believe that small shop nonprofits are making amazing change in our fight against climate change. And we want to support them and ensure that they're able to grow and be the best that they can be. And the way that we do this is through our services. So our services are split between 2: advisory, bookkeeping, and data entry. So advisory is helping directors make good decisions based on their finances, helping with risk management, and data entry involves everything from payroll, invoices, charitable receipts, tax filing at the end of the year. And this slide is very scary, but I just want to show you, this is a breakdown of all of our services. And the beauty of Green Books is that depending on the level of development of a nonprofit, they may use some of these services and they may use all of them. We work with QuickBooks. It's super simple, really easy. It really helps support nonprofits in any level of your development. And then I just wanted to go over the pricing structure. So again, we were founded to help build the financial capacity of other nonprofits and make sure they succeed. So we try to keep our rates as affordable as possible. And then at the bottom, I'm sure you see we offer pro bono services for organizations under an annual revenue of $10,000. With a contract of understanding, you know, we are a nonprofit ourselves. So once you grow and you exceed that annual revenue, you would pay us for the amazing work that we're doing with you and helping you succeed. I just wanted to feature a couple of our clients up top on the screen, and then as well as our partners, PERC, Eco Internships, Eco Executive Director, CBI, SCF, and SEM. And then lastly, I just wanted to go over 2 testimonials from some amazing clients that we have been working with. We have Hannah at Greening Sacred Spaces, who's local right here in Ottawa. She states that as a small shop nonprofit, we do not have the current capacity to properly handle our finances on our own. Greenbooks has been a great partner to work with to make sure all the necessary paperwork is in order and everyone gets paid on time. This just, again, they're pretty small and we're really helping them and supporting them. And then we also have one from Anna at RCEN, which is a larger nonprofit. And, you know, this one's really encompasses what we do because we specialize and we are experts in the nonprofit field. So Anna wrote, Greenbooks understood the unique challenges of running a nonprofit, which not all bookkeepers do. There are constant fluxes in funding and changing of staff with varying salaries. This can be tricky to manage and require a bookkeeping service that understand the complexities within a nonprofit. And that's what we do at Greenbooks. We are here to help you with every challenge because we've experienced it too. So thank you so much for listening. Please, again, my name is Chantel. I'm the Client Engagement Coordinator. Feel free to email me if you have any questions. You can go to our website, book a 30-minute free consultation. And please, please like and follow us on our social media. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much, Chantel. Really appreciate it. And, you know, it's so great to have these partner organizations who've been working with the Capacity Building Institute to step in as sponsors for this event. And we really appreciate it. And we also, you know, stand behind the services that they offer. And so we really want to encourage organizations to build their capacity. And this is one of the ways to do that. So I want to bring Sam back in here for the last few minutes. I don't see a lot of questions jumping in this time from the chat. I don't know if people are just soaking it all up or what, but I just thought I'd give you a moment. So here's a question that came in just now. What are the key metrics you report to the board in order to help them understand your organization's fundraising landscape? Thanks, Rob.
Oh, Rob, best question ever. So I would suggest there's 5. So you want to know what the average gift is. You want to know the retention rate. So how many donors are staying with you? The reactivation rate, how many donors are coming back? Long-term giving. So you want to know long-term donor value. So you want to know how much value there is when a donor's been with you for 10 years. And 5th, you want to know how many donors have consecutively given to you for 10 years. If your organization's a bit younger, then I would say 5 years, but you want to know that consecutive years of giving as well. So those are the top 5 that I would suggest donors or board members, my apologies, would want to know about.
Thanks so much, Sam. And so don't be afraid as a board member to ask those questions and to try to dig in a little bit to the numbers and to help monitor over time. That's the other important thing. I'm often asking groups to really compare over time. How are you doing for a number of donors and amount of money brought in compared to 5 years ago, and where are we today? So be sure to really focus on that. And then Catherine wants to know, is it better to target monthly or yearly donors?
Oh, Catherine, I love this question so much. I love monthly donors. I love all donors, but monthly donors, as I shared a little bit earlier, typically women stay for 7 years and men stay for 10 years, or sorry, 9 years. So it really is great. If you have a monthly donor that signs up and it's $10 a month, you think, okay, that's $120 a year. But really, if they're going to stick with you, that's $1,000 donor. And what's great about it is that and a lot of people are working on them right now, those consolidated receipts, right? Those monthly consolidated receipts are being sent out now. So you're sending one receipt. And you can often, with monthly donors, ask them for an additional gift at a special time. Maybe it's a special campaign or the holiday season. They tend to give that additional gift as well. Monthly donors, in many ways during this pandemic have been a life source for so many organizations. Those dollars that keep coming in allow you as board members as well to plan. If you know you've got 400 monthly donors or 500 monthly donors, when I started the mission, we had 600, and when I left, we had 2,300. So, it's really important to sort of have that that group that you can count on. And there's great ways to sort of transition. If you've got someone that's given to you 2 or 3 times in a year, there's someone that's perfect to ask for a monthly gift. So this is quite honestly a topic, and Kristina will tell you, I could talk about this for a day and a half. Monthly donors and monthly giving is something I'm very, very passionate about. And I'm trying to think if it's right here beside me. It isn't, but there's a great new book out by a gentleman by the name of Harvey McKinnon, a good friend of mine, a Canadian fundraiser. And he's written a great book all about monthly giving. He just did a new version this past year. So he wrote one about 15, 20 years ago called Hidden Gold, but he has a new one out just last year, and it's a great resource.
And Sam, going back to that data question that Rob asked, there's a question around healthy retention rates. And so what would be some benchmarks for what would be a healthy retention rate?
This question's like asking me what kind of car everybody wants to buy, right? Everybody has a very unique and different story. Retention rates for an organization that asks a lot should be sort of 50%. Organizations that aren't asking enough typically, which sounds kind of funny, but their retention rate typically drops. So, and that kind of goes counterintuitive. People say you can't ask people too often, but the reality is you tend to lose them if they don't feel engaged in the organization. I've got, big hospital. I just ran data for a hospital that raises $65 million a year. Just unbelievable to me. Their retention rate is about 67%. So it really ranges. Smaller organizations, if you're retaining, 50% of your donors, that's fantastic. The other thing to think about, and I know we're short on time, but second gift conversion is something that's really an important metric as well. If I was going to add a 6th, it would be second gift conversion. And that's how many donors give you that second gift. I think everyone can agree it's pretty easy to get someone to give you that first gift, to keep them as a donor, and that second gift conversion. So you want to measure how many people are giving a second gift, and you'll be shocked. Typically in organizations, especially small ones, typically people are only about 30% of people give a second gift. So really, really important metric to measure as well, because you want to make sure you're spending your resources wisely.
Thanks so much, Sam. I really appreciate all your expertise on fundraising. And of course, next month, Sam will be back in the hostess seat, and she will be the one doing the interviewing and is our regular host of these sessions. So I'm looking forward to having that. Our next session is on Monday, February 7th. And for those of you who've been following along, we alternate between the board focus and the ED focus. So the February 7th session will be on how to be an executive director from 4 to 5 p.m. And then when we get back to the board sessions, so again, the next board session will be in March, we're actually going to start taking a tour across the different board roles and getting a feel for what you need to be a chair of the board, to be a treasurer of the board, and dig in a little bit deeper into those topics of conversation. And then again, we record these sessions, so it can be really helpful as part of your training and onboarding package to have these resources and tools available as you transition and turn over different officer roles within your organization. So that's one of the ideas behind moving through the different board session. We're not going to talk about fundraising every time, even if Sam and I might want to do that. We're going to alternate to different topics as well. And so next month, you'll get a chance to hear from Rob Barnes, the new executive director of the Capacity Building Institute, and Sam will be back in the hosting chair. So thanks everybody so much for joining us today. We'll see you in February. Take care.